No, I ain't gonna fight it, His Spirit is taking me there. I cannot doubt that love is in the air. Surrender my will to the one who's calling my name. They tell me once your heart's there, you'll never be the same.
Dumbfound me with just a question. It's not often that I kind of get thrown a thought or a question or an idea or anything coming at me, or written to me or spoken to me that kind of surprises me or comes out of left field and amuses me. I mean, there are lots of times that you can tell when I'm in a church, because I'll be sitting there and the pastor will say something about some foible or some thing that he's gone through, and I'll burst out laughing because I'll think it's funny, and everybody else will kind of like, he laughed in church. Oh well, that's me. But you can always hear my rolling laughter for some reason in a church setting or someplace else. But this gentleman, on the internet kind of asked me a question that I was, I had no answer for, really, right off the top of my head. I mean, it's a simple question. It was just, he asked me on VidDevos, these videos that we're doing, he said, do you have these on audio? And I went, never thought of that. Duh. I don't have them on audio. And the reason I was amused by that or dumbfounded was because a couple years ago I was asked to speak at a church, and they asked, or they wished now that they had recorded it on video, because we only recorded it on audio and it took up a whole CD, because they were kind of a, I don't know, I guess you'd say Pentecostal style church. They worship the Lord freely, and they exercise gifts of spirit and things, and I was asked to come and speak because a friend of mine, had, I don't know, we'd gotten to talking one time. I was working on a church, and I hadn't actually spoken in public, to anybody in, I don't know, quite a few years, because I've been busy working and doing other things, and just so happened I was working as a, well, the best way to say it is a missionary, but I was helping to restore this old church for this pastor friend of mine that was opening up and starting this new ministry. So I was helping him to get it going, and doing whatever needed to be done, basically. And so this gentleman, came up and met me and introduced himself, and we talked, and he was so fascinated by our talk that we would get together regularly, and he would talk to me while I was taking a break. And so we talked for hours, When I got done working, he'd be there talking, and we'd talk for hours and hours, because if you wanted to talk about Jesus, you had my attention. If you want to talk about the Bible, you had my attention. If you want to talk about anything else, I could carry on a conversation and be polite, about it. I am fairly well read. So, I could carry on, the topics, and discuss things, and be fairly well cognizant. But it was always interesting was that when we got together, we always shared and built upon each other, kind of encouraging each other by our knowledge of the scriptures and then our appreciation of how God was revealing himself. So he asked me to come to his church and speak, and I did, and it went from, they didn't give a time limit, so I just kept going, and I was sharing about, personal testimony and the Lord and everything else, and I don't know when to shut up, So it went quite a while. So the long story short was that the people were so amazed that they wanted to have a video of it, because they didn't, and we couldn't make one, but there was the audio, and the audio was a huge CD. I mean, it's like too big for a cassette. It's too big for really transferring, so I had to cut it up into pieces, And it's kind of interesting. It was a fun time. But this gentleman that talked to me, I guess he watched one of the VidDevos, or I never know how to say it because I'm the one who invented it. VidDevo VDT-056, whatever. But the point being is that I never thought about doing this audio, and it's kind of like, huh. And I know I can pull the audio off it and, put it onto listening only, and I thought, that would be interesting. I wonder what I sound like, when I'm not able to use my hands to talk. I know what I sounded like on the recording, that I had, and that was kind of amusing, but it'd be interesting to see what happens in the future as I pray about it, about maybe taking VidDevo, the series, and making it into an audio, presentation, stashing it somewhere on the internet. I mean, I've got so many websites and, you name it, we can put it somewhere. But praise the Lord, it's kind of interesting that it threw me for a loop. It kind of stopped me in my tracks and made me, what? Huh? Audio? Yeah, hey, that'd be interesting. But one of the things that it made me think of and reminded me of was this whole idea about lukewarm, that lately people have been talking about from the book of Revelation. You already know where it's at, I don't have to tell you. I mean, do you need an address? It's in Revelation. Look it up on Google. That's what I like to tell people. It's easier, Why bother memorizing? You got a smartphone. But anyways, in Revelation, it's the church of Laodicea, and Jesus is talking to them, and he's always talking about who he is, what he wants done, what they need to change, and what they've done right, and he speaks about their works, and how their works were neither hot nor cold, and he says literally that unto the angel of the church of Laodiceans write, these things saith the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of the creation of God. I know thy works, that thou art neither hot nor cold. I would thou wert cold or hot. So then because you are neither, but then because thou art lukewarm, neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. And the point being is that, we don't really need to get into, in-depth studies. I mean, if you like in-depth studies, sure, I can sit down and go with you anytime. Let's go there. Yeah, duh. Come on over. We'll spend a few weeks on one verse. Could do that, But anyways, people have been using this lukewarm idea, and throwing it at the church, throwing it at people, seeing what sticks, so to speak, saying, oh, the church is lukewarm, it's the end of the age, so they're lukewarm this and lukewarm that, and lukewarm, whatever. Well, I don't like to accuse the brethren or the church. I don't like to point fingers because, frankly, in the Bible, it talks about pointing fingers. It says, these are them that point fingers and God condemns them. Ooh, really? Yeah. Did anybody read the Old Testament? Kind of like somewhere around Zechariah and Isaiah, you kind of want to get in there, Haggai. The pointing of the finger, the wagging of the tongue. You may want to look that up in your Strong's Concordance or Google it. Search engine. And find where the pointing of the finger is. You'll find out that you don't want to be pointing fingers at people. And then what's even worse is there's only one accuser of the brethren. I wouldn't want to be accusing anybody of anything because, frankly, I don't mind saying I'm an eyewitness of that. I have seen it, I have heard it, I've handled it with my own hands. Then I could be a witness. But to accuse someone of something or to make a judgment call on them, I don't know about you, but man, I got to get my rap moves in, my hip hop, kind of dodge that question because, frankly, you shouldn't be accusing anyone. God sees the heart. We see the outward things. We're not too good at judging a book by its cover, so until you've read that person's life, I don't think you really want to be accusing the brethren. So, I got to thinking about this whole idea of lukewarm, and when I started thinking about it, I was kind of in my favorite position, the bathtub. Again, and God's talking to me. And one of the things he was telling me about was interesting was that he said bluntly, about how when you have a vision, I was reading a bunch of devotionals, my Bible and everything, because I read it all in my bathtub. And he's talking to me about how, when you have a vision, you need to go do it rather than just, have the vision and then just dream about it and think about it and get all Google-eyed about it and get all starry-eyed and not actually do anything about it. Like, well, I had a vision, and you don't do anything. But God was telling me, go do something about it. Well, after that, devotional, he was kind of speaking to me about this passion thing, this idea of hot and cold, because frankly, the way it came about was I fill up my tub full of water and then I got to turn on the hot water. You got to warm it up, and it's like the body gets hot and you got to turn on the cold water. And then when it's lukewarm, you don't want to be in it, so you got to either turn the hot on or turn the cold on because you don't want to be in lukewarm water. And that's kind of what God was saying about being lukewarm, was he really doesn't like it. He'd rather you were cold, which I've taken, a cold shower before. Don't go there. And I've taken hot showers, And I've taken hot baths, and I've dove into cold rivers. Thought I was going to say cold tubs. Oh, man, no way. I'm not wasting my time in no cold water in the bathtub. Although lots of times my wife knows that I started the hot water and I'd go back to work on the internet and I'd come back to the bathtub and it's cold. Yes, I'm male. Such as it is. But Jesus preferred that we would either be hot or cold. So I got to thinking about that, and I was thinking, well, people are always whining to me about how this is that and that is this and whatever it is, that they're whining about on the internet or, in life. And, you read about it in the news stories and things. And I got to thinking, well, what's your passion in life? What are you motivated to do? What really gets you going? Like, I know I personally could challenge you in some ways, to prove to you what your motivation is or what your passion is or what you're hot under the collar about. Speaking of collars, it's warm today. But do you know what you're hot about? And do you know what you're cold on? Are you hot for the things of God? Or are you kind of cold on the subject? Do you, don't do the Christian thing during the week? You only do it on Sunday? Or do you get excited about talking about Jesus? It kind of opens up your eyes and makes you young again. You feel that joy come bubbling out, and you just want to go, yeah, let's talk about Jesus. Woo! And you become a radical. Yuck. No, but seriously, what is your passion? I know some of you, you go to a football game. If you're a 49er fan, you got all decked out, and you put on your red face makeup, and you kind of did all your whatever stuff, and then you went to the football game and you screamed and hollered and ranted and raved, and anyone watching you would have said, that's a 49er fan. Or maybe as a Super Bowl comes about, and I'm trying to think who's playing this year. Patriots are playing this year? I think, yeah, the Patriots are playing. So you got your red, white, and blue. Woohoo! Are you passionate for the Patriots? And I was going to say football teams, but can't even remember who it is. Are you passionate for Tebow? Are you now suddenly Tebowing everything because his name happened to be Tebow, and now you think that somehow bending a knee is a Tebow? Okay. But are you passionate about that? So you get all wound up and excited, and are you passionate for your football team? And you got all the jerseys and everything. Because I question, if you're that passionate about your football team, does God fit in that equation? Do you get that passionate about being a Christian? Or is that just kind of like a hidden lifestyle choice? It's a conversation that's best left quiet until Sunday. And then on Sunday, we get, joy-filled because we're with the crowd that we're in. And we worship together. So we get this feeling of excitement. Kind of like we did in the football game, right? You know, the football game where you got all painted up, decked out, ready to go, spent hours driving to get there, spent all this money to get a ticket. You know the stats, you have your favorite quarterback, you got the people, who's the plays are going on, who's doing what and where and this and that and the other thing, and you got it all wrapped up in your mind and you got it going. But if it came to talking about Jesus, do you really even know what his family life is like? Do you know what his heritage is? Do you know what your heritage is? Do you know church history? Do you know anything about being a Christian? Do you know anything about becoming a son of God? Do you know what you're going to become in heaven? Do you know what heaven is like? Do you have a personal passion for God that you just can't get up in the morning unless you talk to God first? That you can't even get out of bed and get going unless you first cry out to God and say, God, I'm not doing anything unless you're with me. Because if you're not with me, I'm not getting out of bed. Do you have that kind of passion for God? I'll bet. I can show you where some of your passions have gone to and why you're not passionate for God. Because you see, there's an interesting thing about having this passion or this fire or this fueled light. It consumes you. Have you noticed that? Have you noticed that if you got all decked up for the football game when you're a 49er fan, or that you go to the Patriots Super Bowl game and you're going to go down to the sports bar in order to watch it, be with your friends, trying to wink, and you don't want to admit it, but you do drink beer, that you aren't going to get sinful, but you're going to just go enjoy the game. Rah, our team, yeah, beat those guys. Who are they? I'm trying to remember who's playing. Oh, New York against New York. That's right. Okay, well, who cares? It's New York. I'm out in LA, so to speak. But the point is, when you get done with that hyped up emotion, you wind down and crash, don't you? Because it took a lot of your energy. It consumed a lot of your feelings. It involved your emotions. That's what God wants from you. He wants you to be consumed by him. He wants you to discover and uncover the cork that you corked up, the Holy Spirit inside you, so that you would be passionate for what he's interested in. And he may surprise you, because God has a zealous, outrageous capability for passion that you can't imagine, because whether you just now dawned on you, he created it. He made the very emotion that you're talking about that's called passion, that involves your soul and your flesh. And that once you involve your spirit into it, oh my God, it would go way beyond any measure of ecstasy that you think you could imagine. Could you imagine like the crowd going wild and suddenly heaven opened up? Wow, and then God was rooting for one side or the other? No? Well, I guess that's where your passion is. But let's go back to the other side of the coin. Let's get sober-minded, kind of like layback, where we're supposed to be, oh, well, we got peace, so we don't want to be too passionate about our faith. We don't want to be one of those radical Jesus freaks. We'd rather be known for being a Jesus freak than to actually show what kind of personality we really have. We'd rather be with all the other ones that are like us than to be passionate about God when we're all alone. A lot of times, there are people that say some ethnic group is very passionate, like Italians. Oh, they're passionate. They use their hands. They're saying, Bonanza, or whatever maybe. Or they say Jews are passionate. Me? Maybe. Die, anu. Propagand. Where? No, not all Jews are passionate. Not all Italians are passionate. People are people. But there are certain criteria for people think that, because the ones that are passionate are obvious. It's kind of like when you see something on the news about some Orthodox Jew who gets all blitzkrieged about, something transgressed, the ultra-Orthodox, so they get all mad about it. And there's so few of them in Israel that everybody highlights them because there's so few of them, but they make such a big noise and racket that everybody thinks that there's a riot going on. About 10, you put 2 Orthodox Jews in a crowd of 100 people and you'll see those 100 people run for cover. If they're ultra-Orthodox. But the point being is that the passion is obvious. The devotion is apparent. When I say to you something like President Obama, your passion is suddenly inflamed. You either reacted positively or negatively, or you didn't have any reaction at all. Kind of like me, like, oh yeah, he's president. Okay, so one president's just as good as another to me. It's like I pray for them all. But the point is some of you have gotten your passion put in the wrong place. You're very passionate of being anti, but what are you passionate pro? What are you passionate for, not what are you passionate against? Because you see, that's where the crux of the situation lies. If you were passionate for God, you would be praying night and day on your face like Islam does, or the Muslims do, when they pray 6 times a day. They even roll out the carpet. They have a red carpet treatment for prayer. Did you realize that? Oh, wait a minute. I just pushed another passion button, didn't I? We're upset because we have Muslims who are passionate about their faith and their God. Oh, it's not our God, but they're passionate for their God. I wonder if God put them there to remind people to be passionate for Him. What are you passionate about? That's your call to make. Because you may find that the passion that you should have had for God, you've distracted by putting it into things that don't solve any situations at all. You don't need to get angry or worked up or excitable about things you have no control over. God said, I'm dealing with it. It's the end of the world. I have set up kingdoms. I have set up princes. I have set up powers. I have set up principalities. I have allowed these things to happen. So now we have to suddenly become passionate for the red, white, and blue, because after all, we have to protect ourselves because God can't protect us. God can't do for us anything. We have to take care of ourselves, so we got to go out and get a gun. So are you passionate about your amendment rights to protect yourself, to have a gun? And then you have to look around for somebody to shoot, somebody to protect yourself from? Do you have to keep watch carefully? Do you have to go out and get sensors? Do you have to get cameras? Do you have to be omnipresent, omniscient, omni-everything? Gee, I think that sounds like becoming your own God, doesn't it? You've got your own protection, you've got your omniscience, you've got your omnipresence, you've got your capability of being everywhere at all times so that you can play God. Be careful with your passion, because you'll find it's misleading you down a road you don't want to go. We are called to be passionate for what? And what did Jesus say about this lukewarm or cold idea? I think he said, he that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith, to begin with. So, frankly, if the shoe fits, it's kind of hard to deny it. If your Nikes, have got you all passionate, where is God in it? That's all I want to know. Jesus said, I know your works, that thou art neither hot nor cold. I would that thou wert cold or hot. So then because you are lukewarm, neither cold nor hot, I will spew you out of my mouth. As many as I love, I rebuke. My question is, when I look at my life, I kind of know what people think of me. They think I'm kind of a weirdo. Matter of fact, right now, sitting here recording this, I am sure there are people around me, right down in my apartment complex, that think I am a total nutcase. Total weirdo. Total bizarro. And that's good. Because, you see, in that respect, if I was in that case, I'd go out and get my nutcracker, and kind of start cracking nuts and chewing them. But in that case, at least it's passionate for what I am, which is choosing to be devoted to the reality of what God has told me to do, which was to sit down and to share with you the passion that I feel for God, that I have every day that motivates me to choose not to do the things of the world, but to be consumed by the things of the Spirit so that I can reveal them and inspire you to go out and try them and see if they work for you. Because you see, if you take that passion that you have, and I know you've got one, you've got a passion either for your husband, for your wife, for your kids, for your cookbook, for your anti-Obama thing, or your political party, or whatever it may be. Heck, you may even be into some kind of addictions and you're passionate about that. But if you take that passion and you turn it around, which is what we call repenting, if you turn it around and start getting passionate about God, you become a weirdo. No, you'll suddenly discover that God will take what He said in the Scriptures and choose to use it. Notice the words, choose to use it. Because God is spoken of as searching the whole world over, looking on the hearts of men, seeing who He may be strong on their behalf for. And one of those things that He notices, as you read just now, is your passion. What are you passionate about? Where have you put this combination of emotion and soul and feeling and energy and strength, and God standing there behind you, when you're putting on your football makeup going, man, do you love me like that? No? Oh, okay. Choose you this day, we are told Joshua had to ask the children of Israel, do you really want to do this? He got before them and said, look, I know, I was here. I've been with you people. We wandered in the wilderness. I was there. We wandered in the desert. When I first got here, I was one of the spies who went in and said, hey, look, let's go take the land. And you said, nope, we can't do it. And I went with you out into the desert. We struggled those 40 years until half of you are wiped out or more. And now here I am again. We're getting ready to go back into this land that I've already, talked to God about. And God said, we're going to go in. You choose. What do you want to do? Do you want to go in or you want to go out? If you choose to go in, we go all in. But if you choose to go out, go all out. One way or another. Either get in or get out. But don't be in between. You see the point? Joshua made them a strong challenge where they had to decide which way they were going. And once they crossed over that line, it was obvious that because they had moved into enemy territory, they were immediately targets. So they had to choose to stick with it. And I don't know if you realize this, but you are in enemy territory. You've crossed over a line that someplace in time, you said you wanted to get to know God. And God said, okay, but if you do, I'm going to tell you what to do. You're going to have to do this, and you're going to have to listen, and you're going to have to kind of get with the program or get out. Because I would rather you were out of the program or in the program, but I don't want you playing with the program. And I think that's what some of you are doing. You see, being passionate about everything else except God is playing at being a Christian and not really being what God has called you to be. There are people around you that are passionate about it. Some of them are a little too passionate, maybe. Maybe they get a little too weird, and I'd say, well, don't be like that. Be you. Figure out what it is in your life today that you're passionate about. Is it football? Seriously, is it football? You know if it is or not. Is it cooking? Is it cookbooks? I don't know, your grandchildren. What are you passionate about? What stirs you up? What gets you going? Then, when you find out what that is, then ask God to show you how you could make that part of your life in His area. Because you may be surprised. He may have something in store for that. Like, let's just say, for the sake of argument, which I love to argue. So for the sake of argument, I'll argue about anything. Give me half a chance and I'll argue about arguing. But I'm not different than you. I just argue the other side of the coin. And then the other side, I could argue both sides. But the point being, and believe me, I could. But the point being is that if you are very passionate, I mean seriously, if you're so passionate about our president and you don't want him in office, then ask God and get passionate about it. Say, God, I don't want him. Take it to God. That's what Jesus is saying. I know your works. He says, I know your works. They ain't hot or cold, man. Put up or shut up. Basically what he's saying. Either you put up the right actions here, of what you really believe in, or shut up and don't do it at all, because I could deal with you, not being a Christian, or I could deal with you being a Christian. But you got to act like it. You got to do like it. And one of those things about doing like it is like being hot about it. Get hot under the collar. If God hasn't answered you in prayer, you get hot under the collar and you say, look, dude, I don't get it. I mean, come on, hip-hop him if you have to. Talk to him. Get real. Get passionate. Because you'll find, if you're passionate about God, God reveals himself to you. Because if you haven't experienced God, I mean, literally, if you're still just playing the religious game, my God, you're missing the boat. You're lukewarm. If you're just sitting around in some church, and experiencing some kind of worship experience where you feel, ooh, the bass played loud, so I felt goosebumps. Yeah, so did the seat and the cars 3 miles away. Uh-huh. Wow, that must have been God because the bass was turned up. But the reality of having passion for God outside of a congregation, in the individual reality of your everyday life, is where God will meet you and then reveal himself to you in a realistic way. In a way where you'll go, I am a Christian. I'm a nut. I'm a wacko. I'm a weirdo. What happened to you? I thought I was such a normal person. No, he won't do that to you. But what he will do to you is that he will speak direct, bluntly. When you're that passionate about God, if you really make him your passion, he will speak direct to you. He will open up this Bible in ways blow your mind. You'll suddenly go, man, you know what? I'm a genius. And you'll think that at some point in time. And then when you get a little more wisdom down the road, you realize, well, it wasn't really me that was speaking it. It was the Lord that was speaking it. And I just got a chance to kind of get some credit for it. And I took full advantage of it. And then you learn not to. But, you're human. You're going to take credit for what God is doing. Let's be real. And then you'll learn the hard way. But when you care enough to share your feelings with God and then demonstrate those feelings to the world, you'll find that the world will pay attention to you because they know that you're real and you're not some phony. You're not some talk and not walk. Because you can't be passionate about something without caring enough to do something about it. Just like that 49er fan that gets all decked out and dressed up. When he walks into that football game, everybody knows he's a 49er fan. My question to you is, when you wake up in the morning, does God know you're a Christian? Think about it. Matter of fact, whatever gets under your collar, you think about it, and you take it to God, and you begin to discover. That's kind of the way that all of your life should be. It should be those things that inspire you, that cause you to take the moment, grab a hold of it, and live it to the utmost. Oswald Chambers wrote a book called Utmost for His Highest. And really, all it boiled down to, because he wrote it in prison, if I remember right, was that he was saying, take all that you have, all that you are, and give it to God. Because as you do, God will give it back to you way more fulfilling than you ever dreamed possible. And not only that, he will reveal himself to you. And after all, once you have a passion for God, don't you want God to be passionate for you.
I hear music and laughter just outside of my door. This time it's just a little louder than before. I hear Jesus making promises that I must now claim. They tell me once your heart's there, you'll never be the same. Oh, peace is got its grip on me, it's drawing me on. I know that in a moment I'll be long gone. I'm feeling warm within, it's like being born again. Take me, Lord, take me, Lord, with my mind on hope, my heart, my soul in faith. I take the step that time cannot erase, stepping into the sunshine out of the falling rain. They tell me once your heart's there, you'll never be the same.